Welcome to Quiet in the Library. Welcome to another episode of Quiet in the Library. I am your host, Reggie. We are about to get into chapters 3 and 4 of The Man with No Name. And we're on quite a few adventures here with Jermaine, and we're going to see how the rest of his adventure unfolds. So let's get into it. Who are you? Would you know me if I gave you a name? Your ghost made a fatal error. Couldn't catch it, but I confirmed it on tracker. The hell is this? You think I'm one of you? Brother, you got another thing coming. How is it that I found one man all the way out here then? No food or water for miles. I manage. I have ways to make you tell us what we want to know. The warlord campaign in this region never reached into the southern valley. Are there any settlements you know of nearby? Anything tucked away in the valley or inside of the mountain range? You could tell me, or I could start cutting. Might be you missed something. You're coming with me. I planned to scout the valley myself, but now I think I'll bring some friends. Jermaine's hand shook when the warlords risen, who conquered the land they found, brought Judson back to Eton during midday a week later. Half the town came out to see them. One of the men wore red armor that fit the description of the warlord that Dryden and his lords were waiting for. They say that one risen, reasonably armed, can annihilate an army. Two risen, assuming adequate cover for ghost support, can fight infinite armies indefinitely. 6 warlords dismounted their machines in a line at the center of town, weapons drawn. They dropped Judson on his knees in front of them. No restraints. He looked unhurt. Does anyone want to claim this runt? Asked the red man. We will, Jermaine said. People groaned. You tried to run to Judson, but her parents held her back. A question first, said the red man. Where are the Iron Lords? We saw one of their ghosts. One of these? He tapped the bladed carapace of his own drone companion as it floated past him, its eye fixed on the townspeople. They like to meddle. Maybe they helped you, brought you some food. It would explain how you survive out here in the wasteland, but I can guarantee you, their motivations are not in your best interest. The red man paused, scanned the crowd, as his ghost orbited above him. The Iron Lords are trying to disrupt the established order, and we're here to liberate you from them. You're under our care now. So, where are they? Jermaine shut his eyes a long moment. When no one else spoke, he decided he would. You're right. They were here, but they're long gone. We paid them for supplies and they moved on a week ago. Did they? The red man raised his hand cannon and shot Yu's father in the head. The entire crowd flinched and huddled together as the man fell backward. Yu's mother cried out in a fury, but held her child tight. Hand to my heart, Jermaine said, holding his breath as he waited for the hidden Iron Lords to make a move. The red man held his gun in the air, watching the townspeople intently. The other warlords scanned the horizon, gleaming weapons at the ready. Judson took the pregnant pause as an opportunity to pull a fallen shock blade from one of the warlord's machines. He gave a triumphant yell and decapitated the armored risen closest to him. As the body fell, he jabbed the length of the blade through the red man's back. A third warlord pulled the glaive out of Judson's hands and stabbed him in the side with the gauntlet blade, then hurled him backward over the machines. All hell broke loose around Germain as the Iron Lords suddenly opened fire from their positions in the surrounding hills. The townspeople scattered as the fallen warlords rose in scintillating pillars of light, their weapons in their hands roaring to life and spitting tracers. The ghost watched from high above the chaos. Over the ages, it had got very good at hiding. It had gotten very good at all the peculiar things its chosen had asked it to learn. Down below, gunfire and explosions of light tore through the collection of huts and shacks. The townspeople fled for their lives in the midst of fire and otherworldly flame as the Iron Lords finally abandoned their sniper positions in the hills to close in on the warlords at the town center. Through it all, the ghost saw one of the men emerge out of the discharge of an errant explosion device, cradling the body of a child. He moved to relative safety behind one of the shacks and knelt down, holding an ear to the child's face. She was trying to speak. One of the armored riders in the town square raised a heavy machine gun in one hand and raked the length of Eaton with golden tracers. The ghost lost visibility on the townspeople as the hail of machine gun fire filled its vantage point with a rolling cloud of dirt and dust. The annihilating, sense-shattering explosions came as soon after, and the ghost increased its elevation. It waited and waited until long after the battle had died out, and the surviving risen had all but left, before lowering itself back to earth. It wasn't even sure which side had won. It didn't matter. The day had turned to dusk. The man had opened his eyes and took an even breath. Almost nothing was where he remembered it. Eaton was gone, blasted and paved. Mild climate was the only reason the shacks and huts that made up most of the town remained standing. But the storm of light versus light had left scorched earth and shadows behind, and the bones of the dead. It was a blood-red dusk. Ghost hovered above him. The man looked down at his hands. He tried to chuckle, but coughed instead. "Are you all right?" Ghost asked. He stood up, straighter than he had in a long time. Easier to seem like people when you slouch. "Germain?" Ghost asked. "That's not my name." "You let them call you that." The man turned to look at his ghost. "It's not my name. One of the warlords mentioned seeing a lone ghost. Did you get sloppy?" Ghost nodded. "I'm sorry. I was scouting a new livestock route for you, and I got carried away." "I don't ask for much," said the man, shaking his head. "Shovel. Give me one." Ghost scanned the debris and ash to find a charred spade, lifting it with a lasso of light. The man slowly gathered all the bones he could, and he began to dig. The child, you, Ghost continued. Stop talking, he replayed. What did she tell you? You were speaking to her at the end. He didn't respond. It would be lifetimes before he told Ghost the answer, but he would remember. You could have helped her. The shovel hit the dirt harder. I told you to shut up. You could have saved them all. The man had nothing to say. He must have been making more noise than he thought, because just as he finished digging a grave big enough for the bones, a voice called out. He dropped the shovel, stared across the vacant town square at the smoldering ruin of the Diaz barn. Eaton was dead. No point in keeping his secret any longer. He crossed the distance at a speed and ease that would have shocked his neighbors and rounded a corner to find Judson on the ground, leaning against the barn door. There was a cannon in Judson's hand, and his eyes opened wide when he recognized the man and his ghost. Judson lifted the gun with a shaking fist. His other hand clutched a dark stain on his side. He's lost a lot of blood, Ghost said, its light spilling across the scene. You were one of them all along, Judson sneered. The man chuckled. All my lives, brother. You got us killed, you son of a... The man kicked the firearm out of Judson's hand, with no urgency at all. He knelt down to point a finger. No, that one's on you. Those warlords caught you. What else were they going to do? I wanted to stop you from leaving, but I didn't think I had the right. Judson reached out to grab his throat. The man caught his hand in a vice grip instead, a crushing handshake. Judson frowned and struggled, but he was exhausted, dying, and the man had strength that belied his frame. The man lifted his other hand, smoldering from a solar glow, and held it against Judson's wound. His former friend managed a high-pitched wail, but couldn't break the man's grip, though he tried and tried. The man nodded at Judson, addressing his ghost. Do you see how he never gives up? Because he knows this one life is all he has. No fear. Those risen out there, the man finished cauterizing the wound and used his suddenly cool hand to wave indiscriminately into the darkening night. They'd be long dead if they were him. All they know is war. This man survives. Judson made a gurgling sound. He had stopped struggling, but the man kept a grip on his hand. You wanted me to save him? Even if this works, he could never show me how to live. Not like he lives. And that's on you. Ghost watched, but made minute adjustments to his orbiting armor and sent light-based scans cascading across the ruins of the town. If there were lingering warlords or iron lords nearby, they would have to run. The man stood up. Judson was dead. Maybe you should have told him you were bringing livestock from 100 leagues away and releasing them for him to catch, Ghost said. I mean, did you see how happy he was? How they all were? They got to eat, the man replied. Give someone something to chase and you give them purpose. You're pathetic. Is this what you aspire to be? A perennial liar who plays house with refugees? These people are dead because of us. I live.